All right, here we are. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, world. Here we are. And we keep continuing on our mandala around the cross of the wheel. And today we come to the right angle cross of consciousness. So we're going to read what that really means. What is that right angle cross of consciousness? Okay, so what do we do with the 1-3 cross of consciousness? Sun in the 64 gate. When I did the first two quarters, I show you how beautiful the cross of consciousness can be, how valuable it is to the development of consciousness of humanity, how essential it is. It actually is through the cross of consciousness that the difference between the abstract and the logic can finally dissolve, because they're not different. They're two parts of the same thing. And though the cross of consciousness is possible to be able to emerge the abstract and the logic, okay, that's not the nice part. We saw that in the mind. We saw that the development of civilization in the form. But there is a difference. Here we're dealing with the theme of duality. This is not the 63rd gate that we looked at. This is not the 35 that we looked at. This is not right in the middle of the whole duality business. Not only that, when you get to the 64.6, that very next gate is its definition, the 47.1, right one after the other. So a 1-3 here, I love this line. It says conditions. What's the weather? They're always looking for the conditions. And of course, one of the things that the 64 discovers right away, they know it immediately, is that they realize from their three underneath that nobody knows anything about anything. If they meet the wisest person, there's a part of them, because they're looking like this, that will find something wrong with it. And all they can do is keep on processing. And if you're a 1-3, it's possible. But remember the heaviness of it. And if you're 1-3, it's possible, but remember the heaviness of it. There's a heaviness to the 1-3. It means that there is a seriousness that can lead to a tremendous amount of distress because of confusion. It's about avoiding disorder. And yet the whole thing is that for the 63 or the 64, disorder seems to be what everything is. Remember, in the analogy of the monopole's work and geometry and trajectory, that everything about the way in which we're supposed to experience existence is on that linear field. That's the limitation being a passenger in a form vehicle. And we're only supposed to be looking in certain ways. And the 63rd and the 64th are steps in evolution that we're not even going to get to. That if we ever going to get to it, it's thousands of years away. In other words, the moment you have the 63, 64 is looking somewhere else, and it only sees chaos. It only sees confusion. In the same way that the 63 looks this way and says, wait a minute, there's something wrong with the pattern. Well, they're not looking at the pattern in the way it's constructed for everyone else. They're looking at the pattern from a unique perspective. They're actually doing riding on top of the vehicle in that sense. But the whole focus is on another trajectory, another angle. If you look at these lines, you can see right away that the most confusing hexagrams are the 63 and the 64. Look at the language here in the first line. It says, in penetrating to the center, the understanding that instills the necessary harmony. What do you mean understanding? I wrote this. What do you mean understanding? That should be over there on the other side. That should be the 63. But when you're looking up, it's very confusing. The abstract becomes logical, logic becomes abstract. Both of them become fused into something that is whatever it is. This is when you bring these beings into the world, they turn everything up in the intellectual plane. That is the magic of being able to discover by having a totally different perspective, something that is truly of value to the whole. But again, our context is duality. So the only way that the abstract says, it's so funny, the abstract says, look, I give up. Remember what the abstract story was. The abstract story is about just have to find the right partner. So when the abstract gives up, guess what it says? It says the only way is understanding. It's the abstract saying, logic, did you figure it out yet? You see that logic comes back, and logic says, the only thing is logical to me is that you have to feel it. They don't know what to do. They get to the same place and they transfer. The 63, 64 literally is like one gate, the funny binary that just divides because it's the game that we're in. Then we go to the 1-4 profile. It is difficult for the one tree to be able to find understanding in the abstract gate. You realize that partnership and duality is always going to be difficult for those beings because this is the foundation. This is not the cross of rubbing bodies. This is not the cross of being friends. This is not the cross of love thy neighbor. This is about consciousness, just consciousness. It's totally disconnected from the physical. The physical is just curious. So right away, when you're dealing with a one for child, that one for child is going to be very confused. It can't understand what is going around in its life. It's going to have difficulties. I watch them. The only thing that cross of consciousness can do is that they can hope that they're splits. Oh, it's very different. If you're a cross of consciousness and it's connected to your throat and it's connected to a motor, this is really difficult. These are people that are going to have a hard time in the way in which they relate to the other. But if you're split, you could meet somebody else, somewhere else, and at least have a connection that has a physical quality to it, because the cross of consciousness, no matter what kind of physical relationship they have with the other, their purpose is not being fulfilled through that. Their purpose is only fulfilled through trying to find, because this is the quarter of duality, trying to find the right consciousness. That's the answer. The answer is, I don't all know about sensing and understanding. I don't know about all of these things. What I do know is that if you find somebody who has the perfect consciousness, that's the right one. If they're in a horrible box, and of course, this is a variation on the abstract theme. The abstract theme is the problem is you don't find the right partner. So consciousness says, yes, 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 that's not what it is. You have to find the right consciousness. You have to find the right spirit, however you want to describe that in that language. So find the right spirit and find the right consciousness. Good luck with that. We keep going to the second profile.